I'm standing in my brother's childhood bedroom for the first time in 20 years, and my hands are shaking so violently I can barely hold the wooden compass he carved for me the day before he vanished. The smell hits me first, that mixture of pine wood shavings and Old Spice that used to cling to his flannel shirts. My knees buckle. Sarah? His voice cracks on my name, deeper now but unmistakably Michael. 20 years of grief collide with 20 years of hope, and I can't breathe. He's taller than I remembered, bearded, with weathered hands that still move the same way when he's nervous. Those eyes, God, those same kind eyes that used to read me stories, are filled with tears that mirror my own. You were supposed to be dead, I whisper, my voice barely audible over the thundering of my heart. I was, he says, stepping closer. In every way that mattered, I was. The compass spins wildly in my palm, just like my world. This morning I thought I was signing for a stranger's package. I had no idea it would shatter everything I believed about loss, about abandonment, about the brother I'd mourned for 2 decades. My throat closes as 20 years of carefully constructed walls crumble in an instant. The little girl in me who used to follow him everywhere, who believed he'd always protect her, comes rushing back with devastating clarity. Michael, I breathe his name like a prayer I'd forgotten how to say. You came back. He nods, tears streaming down his face. I never stopped trying to find my way back to you, Sarah. Never. And in this impossible moment, I finally understand, some miracles don't announce themselves with fanfare. Sometimes they just knock on your door disguised as a delivery mistake, carrying the one thing you thought you'd lost forever. My life runs on routines that keep me safe. Coffee at exactly 6 a.m., black with 1 sugar, the same way I've made it since college. I pad around my converted loft apartment in fuzzy slippers, checking emails while Portland wakes up outside my oversized windows. The morning light filters through gauze curtains, casting soft shadows across my design workspace where yesterday's client mock-ups are still scattered across 3 monitors. I love the solitude of working from home. No office politics, no forced small talk by the water cooler. Just me, my graphics tablet, and the quiet hum of creativity. My clients know I deliver quality work on time, and that's enough. I've built a comfortable little bubble here, minimalist furniture, walls covered in my own artwork, everything clean and uncluttered. Well, almost everything. There's one wall I never quite finished decorating, like I'm saving the space for something I can't name. Jake texted this morning asking about dinner plans. We've been dating 8 months now, and he's patient with my tendency to pull back whenever things feel too serious. Last week he mentioned maybe moving in together, and I've been finding excuses to avoid the conversation ever since. It's not that I don't care about him, I do. Maybe too much. That's usually when I start sabotaging things. My phone buzzes with a voicemail from Mom in Florida. I'll listen to it later. Our conversations follow the same script: her new husband's golf game, my work projects, the weather. We dance around the elephant in every room, the shadow that's shaped our family for 20 years. Neither of us mentions Michael anymore. It's like speaking his name might summon back all that pain we've worked so hard to bury. Dad's harder to reach these days. When he does pick up, I can hear the television too loud in the background, the clink of ice in a glass. We'll talk about baseball or my latest client projects, anything but the reason our family fell apart. I tell myself I prefer this independence. No one to worry about, no one to disappoint. I can order Thai food at midnight, paint until 3 a.m., take spontaneous weekend trips to the coast. Freedom, right? But sometimes, usually late at night when the apartment feels too quiet, I catch myself looking at couple photos on social media with this hollow ache in my chest. Not jealousy exactly, more like homesickness for a life I've never lived. I scroll past engagement announcements and family vacation pictures, wondering what it feels like to plan a future with someone, to believe they'll actually stick around. My artwork tells the real story, though I try not to think about it too deeply. Empty chairs in coffee shops. Doorways with no one walking through them. Landscapes with lone figures gazing at distant horizons. My art professor in college called it beautifully melancholic. I called it paying rent. The truth is, I've gotten really good at being alone. Maybe too good. I've perfected the art of surface-level connections, friends who know my coffee order but not my middle name, dates who think I'm mysterious rather than guarded. I keep everyone at just the right distance, close enough to feel connected, far enough away to run if I need to. Because people leave. That's the one lesson life taught me early and well. They leave, and they don't come back, and you spend years wondering what you did wrong, what you could have done differently. It's easier to leave first, or better yet, never get close enough for leaving to matter. So I've built this nice, safe, predictable life where nothing unexpected can hurt me. My routines, my work, my carefully managed relationships, everything designed to keep my world small and secure. I had no idea how fragile that security really was. The doorbell cuts through my morning like a knife through butter. I'm still in my paint-splattered pajamas, reviewing a logo design for a local bakery, when the sharp ding-dong echoes through my loft. I pad to the door in bare feet, expecting my usual Amazon delivery or maybe the elderly woman from 4B asking to borrow sugar again. Instead, there's a UPS driver holding a medium-sized box, brown cardboard with worn edges that suggest it's traveled some distance. Sarah Chen? He squints at his tablet, stylus poised. That's me. I sign the electronic pad, but something feels off. The address label is smudged, the apartment number blurred enough that my 4A could easily be mistaken for 4B. The box feels heavier than I expected when he hands it over. There's something inside that shifts and rattles softly when I tilt it, not books or clothing, but something with weight and substance. The sender's name catches my eye, M. Chen, with a return address in Bend, Oregon, about 3 hours east. Have a good day, the driver says, already heading back to his truck. I close the door and stare at the package. The shipping label is partially torn where it caught on something, revealing only fragments of the sender's information. M. Chen could be anyone: Michael, Matthew, Margaret. But Chen isn't exactly uncommon. My rational mind says I should march upstairs to 4B and ask Mrs. Rodriguez if she's expecting anything. The right thing to do. The responsible thing. But my hands are already running along the package's edges, feeling for weak spots in the tape. There's something almost magnetic about it, this mystery sitting on my coffee table. When I shake it gently, the contents shift with a muffled thud that sounds almost wooden. I tell myself I'll just take a quick peek to confirm it's not mine, then redeliver it properly. Just a tiny opening in the corner to verify the contents don't belong to me. That's reasonable, right? My fingers find the edge of the packing tape. It peels away easier than expected, as if it wants to be opened. The cardboard flaps lift with barely any resistance. Inside, wrapped in yesterday's Oregonian newspaper, something glints in the morning light streaming through my windows. My heart starts beating just a little faster, though I can't explain why. My hands move almost without my permission, peeling back layers of yesterday's Oregonian. The newspaper crinkles softly, releasing that familiar smell of newsprint and ink. Underneath, something wooden catches the morning light. A compass. Hand-carved, about the size of my palm, with intricate details that speak of hours spent with a whittling knife. The craftsmanship is amateur but loving. Someone made this with their heart, not their skill. The wood is smooth from handling, worn in places where fingers have traced the same paths over and over. I flip it over, and my world tilts. Etched into the back, in careful block letters, MC to SC, and below that, a date that makes my breath catch in my throat, July 15, 2004. My hands start shaking so violently I nearly drop the compass. July 15, 2004. The last day I saw my brother Michael. The last normal day of my childhood before everything fell apart. No, I whisper to my empty apartment. No, no, no. But there's more. My trembling fingers unwrap a bracelet made of painted stones, blues and greens and purples applied with the careful attention of a child's hands. I remember making this at summer camp when I was 8, remember being so proud of the way the colors swirled together. I gave it to Michael for his 15th birthday, told him it would bring him good luck. The photo comes next, and I can't breathe. 2 children building a sandcastle on Cannon Beach, me at 8 with pigtails and a gap-toothed grin, Michael at 15 with sun-bleached hair and the same crooked smile I see in my mirror every day. Dad took this picture. I remember the moment. Michael had just helped me build turrets, and I was convinced we'd made the best castle in the history of the beach. My vision blurs as tears I didn't realize were coming spill down my cheeks. There's a letter, folded small and written in handwriting that's older now but unmistakably familiar. My brother's careful script, the way he always dotted his I's with little circles instead of dots. If you're reading this, it means I finally found the courage to reach out. I know I can't undo the years of silence, but I need you to know I never stopped being your brother. M. The compass spins wildly in my shaking palm, just like my entire world. Michael. My brother Michael, who disappeared during our family camping trip 20 years ago. Michael, who we searched for until the rescue teams gave up hope. Michael, who my parents mourned until it destroyed their marriage. Michael, who I've carried as a ghost in my heart for 2 decades. He's alive. The thought hits me like a physical blow. I sink onto my couch, clutching the compass so tightly the metal edges dig into my palm. All these years of wondering if he suffered, if he was scared, if he thought about us in his final moments. All these years of survivor's guilt, of wondering why I got to grow up when he didn't. He's alive, and he's been alive this whole time. 20 years of grief and guilt and carefully constructed emotional walls crumble in the space of a heartbeat. The hollow ache that's lived in my chest since I was 12, the one I've learned to work around, like a trick knee, suddenly has a name, has a face, has a possibility I never dared imagine. I press the compass to my forehead and sob like I haven't since I was a child, mourning not just his absence but all the years we've lost, all the conversations we never had, all the birthdays and holidays and ordinary Tuesday mornings that passed without him. But underneath the grief is something else, something that scares me even more than the pain: hope. I call in sick to work, which I never do. My hands haven't stopped shaking since I opened that package 3 hours ago. I've been pacing my apartment, clutching the compass like a lifeline, trying to convince myself this is real. The return address leads to Pine Ridge Apartments in Bend. My fingers fumble with my phone as I dial directory assistance. I'm looking for the property manager at Pine Ridge Apartments, I tell the operator, my voice barely steady. The woman who answers sounds harried. Pine Ridge Property Management, this is Carol. Hi, I'm trying to reach my brother, Michael Chin. He lives at, I rattle off the address from the package. Michael Chin, oh honey, he moved out about 2 months ago. Sweet man, always paid his rent on time. Didn't leave a forwarding address though. Said he had some family business to take care of. My heart hammers against my ribs. Did he say anything about where he was going? Well, he worked at that outdoor gear shop downtown. Mountain Peak Outfitters, I think? You might try there. My hands shake as I dialed the store. A cheerful male voice answers. Mountain Peak Outfitters, this is Brad. I'm looking for Michael Chen? He might work there? Michael? Oh man, he was great. Really knew his stuff about hiking gear. But he quit suddenly back in June. Seemed real torn up about something, actually. Said he had to take care of some family business and couldn't say when he'd be back. June. 2 months ago. Right around when he sent this package. Did he mention where he was going? Nah, sorry. He was pretty private. But hey, if you find him, tell him we'd love to have him back. Each dead end feels like losing Michael all over again. I sink onto my couch, surrounded by his gifts, and dial the number I've been avoiding. Mom? My voice cracks when she answers. Sarah? Honey, what's wrong? You sound. Mom, if Michael was alive, if he contacted us somehow, would you want to know? The silence stretches so long I think the call dropped. Then I hear her sharp intake of breath. Sarah Elizabeth Chen, don't you dare. Don't you dare do this to yourself. We looked everywhere. The police, private investigators, search and rescue teams. 4 months, sweetheart. You can't. But what if? No. Her voice turns firm, protective. I won't watch you tear yourself apart chasing ghosts. I already lost one child to those mountains. I won't lose another to false hope. I hang up, tears streaming down my face. But I can't stop. Not now. I spend hours scouring social media. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, too many Michael Chens, none that look like my brother might now. I create fake accounts to view private profiles, become obsessed with every outdoor enthusiast, every bearded man in his 30s in Oregon. By midnight, my eyes burn from screen time. I'm about to give up when I remember the hiking gear store. Outdoor people join clubs, right? I search Bend, Oregon hiking groups and start calling. The third number connects me to Linda from the Cascade Hiking Club. Oh, Michael Chen. Of course I know him. Such a sweet man, led our group up Mount Bachelor just last month. He talked about his sister a lot, actually. Said he was from Portland originally. My heart stops. His sister? He was so proud of her. Said she was an artist, that he'd lost touch with her but thought about her every day. Real emotional about it, you know? Do you know how I can reach him? Well, he's not on our regular member list, but I think he's staying with his friend Dave. Has a cabin out near Sisters. I could probably get you the number. As I scribble down the information with shaking hands, 20 years of wondering finally crystallizes into terrifying possibility. He's been thinking about me. He's been alive, and he's been thinking about me. The drive to Sisters takes 2.5 hours, but I make it in 2. My hands grip the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles are white, the compass sitting on my passenger seat like a talisman. I've rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in my head, but now that I'm here, pulling up Dave's gravel driveway, I can't remember a single word I plan to say. The cabin is rustic, surrounded by towering pines that smell like my childhood camping trips. Through the front window, I see a man moving around inside, tall, broad-shouldered, chopping vegetables at a kitchen counter. My engine idles as I sit frozen in my car, heart pounding so hard I can hear it in my ears. What if it's not him? What if I've built this impossible hope on coincidence and wishful thinking? What if it is him, and he doesn't want to see me? Then he steps outside to grab an armload of firewood from the porch, and 20 years collapse into nothing. He's taller than I remembered, broader through the shoulders, with a full beard that's darker than his hair. But the way he moves, careful, deliberate, with that slight hesitation before he commits to each step, that's exactly the same. And when he glances toward my car, shading his eyes against the afternoon sun, I see those eyes that used to read me bedtime stories. Michael. My brother Michael is standing 20 feet away from me, alive and whole and real. I turn off the engine with shaking hands and step out. My legs feel like water, barely holding me upright. He freezes mid-step, a piece of split cedar falling from his arms. Sarah? His voice carries across the distance between us, deeper now but unmistakably him. The way he says my name, like he's been practicing it, like it's precious to him, makes my knees buckle. For a moment, we just stare at each other across 20 years of absence. He looks older, weathered by sun and wind, with lines around his eyes that speak of laughter and sorrow I wasn't there to witness. But it's him. It's really him. You were supposed to be dead, I whisper, my voice barely carrying in the mountain air. His face crumbles. I was, he says, dropping the remaining wood and taking a step toward me. In every way that mattered, I was. The dam breaks. 20 years of grief, of guilt, of wondering why I survived when he didn't, comes pouring out in broken sobs. I'm 12 years old again, screaming his name in the woods while search teams combed the forest. I'm 16, watching our parents sign divorce papers because they couldn't bear to look at each other and remember what they'd lost. I'm 25, walking past the children's section in bookstores because it reminds me of the stories he used to read me. Michael crosses the space between us in 3 long strides and catches me as my legs finally give out completely. His arms, stronger now, weathered by years of outdoor work, wrap around me like they used to when I had nightmares as a kid. I'm sorry, he whispers into my hair, his voice breaking. God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I wanted to come back. Every single day, I wanted to come back. I pull away just enough to look at his face, to touch his cheek and convince myself he's real. Where have you been? We looked everywhere. Mom and Dad, they. I know. Fresh tears spill down his cheeks. I watched from a distance. I saw what it did to all of you. That's why I couldn't. I couldn't figure out how to undo 20 years of you thinking I was dead. The compass is still in my pocket, pressing against my hip. I pull it out with trembling fingers. You sent this to me. He nods, looking ashamed. I've been trying to work up the courage for months. I must have written that letter 50 times. The package was for me? It was always for you, Sarah. You're the only family I ever really wanted back. We sit on Dave's porch as the sun begins to set behind the Cascade Peaks, 2 decades of silence stretching between us like a chasm I'm not sure we can cross. Michael brings me coffee in a chipped ceramic mug, and I notice his hands shake slightly when he sets it down. I don't know how to do this, I admit, wrapping my fingers around the warm cup. I don't know how to have a brother again. He settles into the wooden chair beside me, keeping careful distance like I might bolt if he gets too close. I've practiced this conversation in my head a million times. But now that you're here. He trails off, staring at his own hands. I'm terrified you'll leave. The admission hits me like a physical blow. I'm terrified you'll disappear again. We sit with that truth between us, the weight of 20 years of abandonment fears made real. Part of me wants to run back to my car, drive home to my safe, predictable life where no one can leave me because no one gets close enough to matter. It would be so much easier than this terrifying hope that's blooming in my chest despite everything. When I saw the search teams on the news, Michael says quietly, when I realized what I'd put everyone through, I panicked. I thought if I came back after all that drama, all those resources spent looking for me, everyone would hate me for the lie. So you just stayed gone? I was 19 and stupid and thought I was protecting you all from my mess. But every day I stayed away made it harder to come back. How do you knock on your parents' door after 5 years and say, sorry, I've been alive this whole time? After 10 years? After 15? I understand that logic, even as it breaks my heart. You could have tried. I did try. So many times. I'd drive to the old neighborhood and just sit outside the house for hours. I followed your art career online, read every interview you ever gave. I knew when Mom remarried, when Dad started drinking more. I knew you were afraid of commitment, afraid of people leaving. The fact that he's been watching over me from afar makes me feel exposed and cherished at the same time. You knew about Jake? I knew you were dating someone who seemed to make you happy, and I knew you were probably finding ways to sabotage it because that's what we both learned to do. His smile is sad and knowing. We're both experts at leaving before we can be left. That hits too close to home. I think about all the relationships I've ended, all the opportunities I've walked away from, all the ways I've kept my world small and safe. What if this doesn't work? The question tumbles out before I can stop it. What if we can't figure out how to be family again? What if too much has changed? Michael looks at me with those same kind eyes that used to comfort me after nightmares. What if it does work? What if we can build something new from what's left of what we were? The courage that question requires takes my breath away. To choose hope over fear. To risk the devastating loss of losing him again by choosing to love him now. I don't know how to trust that people won't leave, I whisper. I don't know how to believe I deserve to stay, he whispers back. But maybe that's where we start, in the honest admission of our fears, in the choice to try anyway. I reach for his hand, and when his fingers close around mine, they're warm and real and here. I want to try, I say. His smile transforms his entire face. Me too. Tell me everything, I say, settling deeper into the porch chair. 20 years, Michael. I need to understand. He takes a shaky breath. I was so depressed that summer. You probably don't remember, but I'd failed 2 classes, lost my job at the hardware store. Mom and Dad were fighting constantly about money, about my future. I felt like this massive burden on everyone. I do remember some of it, the tension in our house, the way conversations stopped when I walked into rooms. But I was 12, I thought it was normal family stress. That night at the campground, I just started walking. I told myself I'd clear my head, maybe sleep under the stars, come back in the morning with a better attitude. His voice cracks. But when morning came, I could hear you calling my name. You sounded so scared, Sarah. And I realized what I'd done. Why didn't you just come back then? By the time I got close enough to see the camp, there were park rangers everywhere. Search helicopters. I panicked and hid, telling myself I'd wait until things calmed down. But they never calmed down. It just kept getting bigger. The image of my 12-year-old self screaming his name in those woods makes my chest tight. I thought it was my fault. I thought if I'd been a better sister, you wouldn't have left. Michael's face crumbles. God, Sarah. No. You were the only good thing in my life. You still are. We're both crying now, 20 years of misplaced guilt finally finding its way to the surface. I got help, he continues. Therapy, medication, a job with a logging crew in Washington. I learned to manage the depression, built a quiet life. But I never stopped monitoring you guys from a distance. When Mom remarried, I was happy for her. When Dad started drinking more. He shakes his head. I wanted to come home and fix it, but how do you explain being dead for 15 years? What finally made you reach out? Cancer scare last year. Turned out to be nothing, but lying in that hospital bed, I realized I was going to die for real someday. And you'd never know that I thought about you every single day. That every sunset reminded me of how you used to insist we watch them together during camping trips. That I kept every newspaper clipping of your art shows. He disappears into the cabin and returns with a shoebox. Inside are dozens of articles about my work, printouts from my website, even a photo someone posted on social media of me at a gallery opening 3 years ago. You've been proud of me, I whisper, touching the carefully preserved clippings. So proud. I wanted to buy every piece you ever made, but I was afraid you'd trace the sales back to me somehow. The love in that admission undoes me completely. All these years I thought I was alone in the world, and he was cheering me on from the shadows. I forgive you, I say, and mean it completely. For leaving, for staying gone, for all of it. I forgive you, and I love you, and I want you back in my life if you'll have me. Michael reaches across the space between our chairs and takes my hand. I've dreamed of hearing you say that for 20 years. Then why are we sitting so far apart? He laughs through his tears, and suddenly we're both standing, hugging the way we used to when I was small and the world felt safe. He's taller now, broader, but I still fit perfectly under his arm. I missed you so much, I sob into his shoulder. I'm here now, he whispers. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere ever again. For the first time in 20 years, I believe someone when they promise to stay. You know what's funny? I used to think miracles were these big, dramatic things, like parting seas or voices from burning bushes. I never imagined one could arrive disguised as a UPS delivery on an ordinary Thursday morning. It's been 3 months since Michael came back into my life, and I'm still learning how to live with hope instead of fear. The change didn't happen overnight. Healing 20 years of abandonment trauma takes time, but the shift is real, and it's profound. I called Jake the day after I found Michael. For the first time in our 8-month relationship, I told him the truth about my past, about why I always pulled away whenever things got serious. Instead of running, which is what I expected, he held me while I cried and said he'd been waiting for me to trust him enough to let him in. We're talking about moving in together now. Actually talking, not just me panicking and changing the subject. The idea of planning a future with someone doesn't terrify me anymore. Well, it still scares me a little, but it's a good scared, the kind that means you're growing. My art has changed too. Gone are the empty chairs and lone figures staring at distant horizons. Last week I finished a series of paintings about homecoming, doors opening instead of closing, tables set for family dinners, children playing in gardens where someone is watching over them. My gallery owner says it's my best work yet, that there's a warmth in it that wasn't there before. Michael moved to Portland last month. He found a job with a local conservation group and an apartment just 20 minutes from mine. We have dinner together twice a week, and he's teaching me to whittle. My first attempt was a disaster, a bird that looked more like a lumpy potato, but he kept it anyway, said it reminded him of the ashtrays I used to make him in elementary school art class. The family healing is harder but happening. Mom flew up from Florida and spent a week with us, crying and laughing and filling in 20 years of stories. Dad's still struggling, the guilt of giving up the search, of letting grief turn him bitter, but he's agreed to family therapy. It's messy and painful and beautiful all at once. But the biggest change is internal. That constant low-level anxiety I'd carried for decades, the perpetual bracing for abandonment, has lifted. I sleep better now. I make long-term plans. I bought a plant that needs daily care because I'm no longer afraid I might not be around to water it. The strangest part is understanding that the package was never really misdelivered at all. Michael had my correct address. The UPS driver read it right. But we both convinced ourselves it must be a mistake because we'd forgotten how to believe that love could find us intentionally, that someone might choose to come back rather than leave. I keep the compass on my nightstand now. Sometimes when I hold it, I think about all the ways our lives could have gone differently if I'd been too scared to open that package, if I'd just dropped it at 4B without looking inside. But maybe that's the real miracle, not the coincidence itself, but the moment we find the courage to open our hearts to the impossible. Some people get their brothers back. Some people get second chances at family, at love, at believing the best is yet to come. I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm standing in Michael's new apartment in Portland, helping him hang family photos we took just last week. All of us together, Michael, me, Mom, even Dad managed to smile. On his mantel sits the wooden compass, pointing steadily north toward home. You know what the strangest part is? I say, adjusting a picture frame. The UPS driver was wrong that day. The package was addressed to 4A, my apartment. I checked with Mrs. Rodriguez in 4B, and she confirmed she wasn't expecting anything. Michael looks up from the box he's unpacking, confused. But I sent it to 4A. I spent weeks researching your exact address. We stare at each other, then at the compass that started it all. So there was no delivery mistake? I ask. The package was always meant for you, he realizes. We just convinced ourselves it might be wrong because we were both terrified of hoping. I laugh, and the sound is lighter than it's been in 20 years. So there was no cosmic accident. No miracle coincidence. You just finally found the courage to reach out. And you found the courage to let me back in. The compass catches the afternoon light streaming through his windows. Sometimes I think about that Thursday morning, how I almost didn't open the package, how I could have just dropped it upstairs and gone back to my safe, small life. But maybe that's the real miracle, not that love finds us by accident, but that sometimes we're brave enough to recognize it when it does. That morning I thought I was